You ever wake up in the back seat of your own car, confused, half dreaming, and realize it's still moving, but you're not the one driving? That was me 3 months ago. The driver was my son-in-law. My daughter sat in the passenger seat. They thought I was asleep, maybe even half senile. But I heard every word. We'll drop him at the station in Grayford. He won't know where he is. He won't last a week on his own. I kept my eyes closed, steadying my breath. My own flesh and blood, plotting to abandon me like a useless stray dog. Now, before you think I'm some helpless old coot, I'm 76, yes. I walk slower than I used to. My knees complain when it rains. But I'm not fragile. Not by a damn sight. What my family doesn't know, what they never cared to learn, is that I spent 20 years in places most people can't find on a map. I know how to vanish. I know how to start over. And I sure as hell know how to survive. That night, when they accidentally left me at that cold, forgotten train station, they drove off thinking they'd written the end of my story. They had no idea they'd just lit the fuse on something far bigger. Because I didn't just survive. I started planning. And before this is done, every single one of them is going to regret underestimating me. When I found that envelope under my motel door, my first thought was that my family hadn't just abandoned me, they'd set me up. Maybe they thought I'd stumble around Grayford until I keeled over, and some random stranger would find my body. But the handwriting on that scrap of paper. It wasn't theirs. It was tight, deliberate, written by someone who'd learned to write in block letters to hide who they were. Military style. And the words, "Welcome back, Ghost." Now, here's the thing. Ghost wasn't just a nickname. It was my name in another life, one my daughter never knew about. Back in the 70s, I worked with a group that didn't officially exist. We went places the government wouldn't admit, did things they'd rather keep buried. If they called you Ghost, it meant you could slip in and out of a place without leaving a trace. I haven't heard that name in 40 years. I sat on the motel bed, staring at the note, and for the first time since my family dumped me, I felt something I hadn't felt in decades, the weight of unfinished business. Then came the knock. Soft, 3 taps. The same rhythm we used in the old days to identify ourselves. I froze. Whoever was on the other side knew me, or at least knew about me. And if they knew that much, they probably knew why I was here. I didn't open the door right away. Instead, I slid the note into my pocket, picked up the glass ashtray from the nightstand, heavy enough to drop a man cold if it came to it, and crept to the door. "Who is it?" I growled. A pause. Then a voice, low and steady. "Old debts don't stay buried forever, Ghost." I opened the door expecting trouble. Maybe a knife, maybe a gun, maybe the cold eyes of a stranger who wanted me gone for good. Instead, I found him. Sam. Back in '82, Sam and I were pinned down in a godforsaken village overseas. He caught a round in the chest and went down hard. I dragged him as far as I could, but when the evac bird came, they told me to let him go. Said he was gone already. I lived the last 4 decades thinking I'd left him behind. But here he was, standing in front of me in a thrift store jacket, older, scarred, but alive. "Sam," I whispered. "You're supposed to be dead." He smirked like he always did, that little half-grin that said he knew something you didn't. "Dead's just a word, Ghost. You know that better than anyone." I pulled him inside, shut the door, and locked it twice. He didn't waste time with pleasantries. He dropped into the chair, cracked his knuckles, and said, "You've been made. Someone knew you'd end up here. That note wasn't mine." That chilled me worse than the Grayford air. If Sam didn't leave the note, then who the hell knew my old name? I tried to piece it together, my family's betrayal, this backwater town, Sam's sudden reappearance. It felt less like bad luck and more like a chessboard I hadn't realized I was standing on. Sam leaned forward, voice dropping. "Whoever's moving pieces here, they want you alive. For now. Otherwise you'd already be gone." I asked him how he found me, and he just chuckled. "Same way you'll find out who's behind this. By watching who underestimates you first." That hit home. My family thought I was finished. Maybe they'd been played, too. Or maybe they weren't the only ones with a knife in my back. Before I could ask more, Sam's face went pale. He stood up fast and pressed himself against the wall, motioning for me to be quiet. Footsteps. Right outside the door. You can tell a lot from a knock. 3 light taps. Someone cautious. Someone signaling. 1 heavy slam. That's someone telling you they're in control. The door rattled in its frame. Whoever it was, they wanted me to feel small. Sam pressed a finger to his lips, mouthed "Stay put," and slid his hand into his jacket. I knew that look. He was armed. Somehow I wasn't even surprised. Sam had been living in the shadows for decades. You don't make it that long without steel on your hip. The knock came again. Louder. "Open up, old man," a voice barked. Not local. Too sharp, too rehearsed. Like someone who'd spent years barking orders, not asking. I motioned to Sam, grabbed the ashtray again, and whispered. "If they're here for me, they're already 2 moves ahead." Sam gave a dry grin. "Then let's give 'em a game." He flung the door open in one sharp motion. Standing there were 2 men in plain clothes, not cops, not thugs. Suits, clean haircuts, the kind of guys who think sunglasses make them invisible. The taller one smirked. "Mr. Halloran. Or should I say, Ghost?" Hearing that name on his lips was like being dragged back 40 years. But I didn't flinch. I just stared at him and said, "Don't know who you think you're talking to. My name's Frank." He ignored me. Reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a photograph. He held it up so I could see, my daughter's house. My grandkids' faces blurred in the corner. That was the moment my blood turned to ice. "You come with us quietly," he said, "or the family you still have left won't stay safe for long." Sam's hand twitched near his sidearm. I could almost hear his finger itching on the trigger. But me? I forced myself to breathe, to stay calm. Because if there's one thing I learned in my past life, it's this. When your enemy thinks they've got you cornered, that's when they're most vulnerable. So I smiled. "All right, gentlemen," I said. "Let's take a little ride." The black sedan smelled like old leather and cheap cologne. The kind of smell that sticks to your clothes after bad company. I sat in the back seat, 1 suit on either side of me. The tall one drove. The shorter one, thicker neck, twitchy hands, kept glancing at me like I was a puzzle he didn't trust himself to solve. Nobody spoke for the first 10 minutes. Just the hum of the engine and the sound of tires grinding against cracked asphalt. I counted the turns in my head, marking the route. Old habit. You never let someone else own your sense of direction. Finally, the driver said. "You've been hard to track, Ghost. Thought maybe you'd gone soft. Retired. But here you are, still breathing." I gave him a lazy chuckle. What can I say? The good die young. The twitchy one didn't laugh. He leaned closer, voice low. "You think this is a joke? We know what you did. We know what you took." That last word snagged me. Took. 40 years of skeletons rattled in my head, and I couldn't pin down which one they were digging up. "Funny thing," I said, keeping my voice calm. "I don't remember owing you boys a damn thing." The driver smirked. "Maybe not us. But debts outlive the men who make them." That's when it hit me, whoever was pulling strings here wasn't after me just for me. They wanted something tied to the past. Something I'd buried deep enough I thought even memory had rotted it away. We drove another 20 minutes before they pulled into an abandoned warehouse on the edge of town. Cliché, sure, but clichés exist because they work. They marched me inside, pushed me into a chair, zip-tied my hands. The taller one leaned in close, his breath hot with mint and menace. "Tell us where it is, Ghost. Tell us, and maybe your family stays untouched." I didn't flinch. I just stared at him and said, "Boys, you're asking the wrong questions." Because what they didn't know was that Sam had already found the coded note I left him back at the motel. And if he followed the instructions I wrote, the same kind we used in Havana, 78, then right about now. He'd be coming through that door. The flicker of the lights wasn't an accident. I knew Sam well enough to recognize his handwriting even in electricity. The two suits froze, hands drifting to their holsters. The taller one barked. "Who's up there?" Silence. Just the groan of old beams and the faint drip of water from a cracked pipe. I leaned back in the chair, zip ties cutting into my wrists, and let a grin spread across my face. You boys ever hear the saying? If you think you're hunting a ghost, you're already dead. The twitchy one whipped his pistol upward, scanning the rafters. That's when a heavy wrench came sailing down, cracked against the concrete with a sound that made everyone flinch. A distraction, pure and simple. Sam was here. The taller one spun toward me, maybe thinking I was in on the trick, which I was, of course. That moment of hesitation was all Sam needed. There was a thud above us, then a rope dropped fast. Before they could react, Sam swung down like he was 30 years younger, boots colliding with the twitchy one's shoulder. The guy went sprawling, gun skittering across the floor. The driver drew his weapon and pointed it right at Sam's chest. I didn't think. My body remembered the motions. I shoved my chair backward, slamming into the guy's knees. He stumbled just long enough for Sam to tackle him to the ground. The fight was fast, ugly, and efficient. When it was over, both men were down, breathing, but out cold. Sam cut me free with a knife he pulled from God knows where. I rubbed my wrists and stared at the suits, sprawled out like broken dolls. "They'll wake up," I said. Sam nodded. "Yeah. And they'll bring more next time." I picked up one of their wallets, flipped it open. No ID, no credit cards. Just a slip of paper with one address written on it. Grayford. My daughter's neighborhood. The bastards weren't bluffing. Sam saw my face and knew. "They're going after your family, aren't they?" I slipped the paper into my pocket and stood. My knees creaked, but my voice was steady. "Not if I get to them first." The motel room smelled like stale smoke and mold, but when I saw that envelope under the door, none of that mattered. I knew the handwriting. I'd know it anywhere. Round letters, a little slant to the left. My daughter's. I picked it up slow, like it might burn me. My fingers shook, not from age, not from fear, but from the crack running down the middle of me. Sam stood behind me, arms crossed. "You gonna open it, or stare it to death?" I tore it clean. Inside was one page, written fast, ink blotched in spots. "Dad, if you're reading this, don't come back. Please. It's not safe for you here. I didn't want it to happen like this. They said you'd be taken care of." I thought that meant something else. I didn't know. "Don't look for me. Don't look for the kids. Stay gone. No signature. No love. Just that." Sam read over my shoulder, let out a low whistle. "Sounds like she sold you out, Frank." I gripped the paper so hard it crumpled. My daughter, my own blood, admitting she knew. Maybe not all of it, maybe not the details, but enough. Enough to play along. The part that gutted me most wasn't the warning. It was the excuse. I thought that meant something else. Like betrayal's lighter when you don't read the fine print. I sat down on the edge of the bed, letter dangling from my hand. I should have been broken. Maybe that's what she expected. Instead, something colder set in. I'd given her everything, roof, food, my years. She repaid me with lies and cowardice. Sam must have seen the shift in my face, because he gave me a crooked grin. There he is. That's the ghost I remember. I folded the letter and tucked it into my jacket. No, Sam. Ghost was a shadow. This is personal. Before I could say more, the motel phone rang. That dusty, beige relic hadn't made a sound the whole time I'd been here. Sam and I locked eyes. Neither of us moved. The phone rang again. And again. I finally picked it up. A voice I didn't recognize said 4 words. "You're already too late." Click. Deadline. The warehouse stank of rust and dust, but outside the night air felt like ice in my lungs. We stepped into the gravel lot, the silence cut only by the click of Sam's boots. And there it was. Sitting on the hood of his beat-up truck, a shoebox. Wrapped in plain brown paper. My name scrawled across the top in black ink. Not Ghost. Not Mr. Halloran. Just Frank. That almost rattled me more than the suits. Whoever left it knew me as I am now. Sam muttered, "Trap." He didn't even try to hide the edge in his voice. "Everything's a trap," I said, and picked it up anyway. The paper was neatly folded, no tape. Inside the box. Old photos. Dozens of them. Me in uniform. Me in jungles. Me with men who weren't supposed to exist. Some of those faces had been erased from official records, wiped clean by history. Yet here they were, staring up at me in black and white. And at the bottom of the stack, a letter. Typed, not handwritten. No signature. What was stolen must be returned. The debts of Ghost are the debts of his blood. Come to Hollow Creek. Midnight. Alone. Sam read it over my shoulder, his jaw tightening. "They're baiting you." "Of course they are," I said. "But look at the wording. Debts of Ghost are the debts of his blood. This isn't just about me. They're pulling my family into this." Sam gave me a long, heavy look. "Your daughter. She part of it?" The question cut deeper than I wanted to admit. Did she know? Was abandoning me in Grayford just a convenient way to cash me out of the picture? Or had someone whispered in her ear that letting me vanish would keep the rest of them safe? The thought made my stomach twist. I shoved the photos back into the box and closed it. "If they think blood makes me weak," I muttered, "they forgot what blood does when it's cornered." Sam smirked, lighting a cigarette. "That's the Ghost I remember." We climbed into his truck. I tucked the box under the seat. And as the engine rumbled to life, I saw headlights in the distance, a car idling on the ridge, watching us. Sam saw it too. "They're not even hiding anymore." I leaned back, cracked my knuckles, and said, "Good. Makes it easier to bury them." The phone had barely gone dead when the sirens started. Not cop sirens. Fire. I yanked open the motel door, and there it was, a pillar of smoke curling into the night sky, orange glow beneath it. My gut twisted. That direction wasn't just any part of town. It was her neighborhood. Sam stepped out beside me, cigarette falling from his lips. "Jesus, Frank." I didn't wait. We piled into his truck, gravel spitting under the tires as we tore down the road. The closer we got, the thicker the smoke. My chest clenched tighter with every turn. When we finally pulled onto her street, the world was chaos. Neighbors in robes shouting, kids crying, fire hoses blasting. And there, her house, or what was left of it. Flames licking through the roof like hungry fingers. I pushed through the crowd, ignoring the heat singeing my skin. A firefighter tried to hold me back. "Sir, you can't." I shoved past him. My voice cracked like a whip, "My family's in there." He grabbed my arm. "We already searched. Nobody inside. Place was empty when it went up." Empty. The word hit harder than the heat. My daughter's car wasn't in the driveway. No toys in the yard. Nothing. Like they'd cleared out before the fire started. Sam caught up, coughing through the smoke. "Look staged. Clean exit, then boom." I stared at the flames, rage boiling. My daughter's note, that phone call, now this, it wasn't random. Someone was moving the pieces, and she was either a pawn or a player. Then, through the crackle of burning timber, I saw it, a figure on the far side of the street, half hidden by the crowd. Watching the house burn. Not a neighbor. Not panicked. Just watching. And when our eyes met, he gave me a slow nod, and slipped something into the mailbox across the street. By the time I fought my way over, he was gone. The mailbox was still warm from his hand. Inside, among the junk flyers and ash, was a single envelope. My name again. I tore it open. One line, typed clean. Hollow Creek. Midnight. Don't bring Sam. I felt Sam's hand on my shoulder. What's it say? I crumpled the paper in my fist, watching my daughter's house collapse into sparks. Nothing, I lied. The drive out to Hollow Creek was long enough for doubts to creep in, but I shoved them down. I didn't tell Sam. Didn't bring him. The note had been clear, and I needed answers more than I needed backup. The creek lay in a hollow of black pines, moonlight turning the water into broken glass. The kind of place kids tell ghost stories about. Fitting. I waited. Midnight came and went. The silence pressed down heavy, broken only by the hiss of insects and the ripple of the water. Then I saw movement. From the tree lean, a figure stepped out. Slow. Deliberate. Carrying something under their arm. I squinted against the dark. And when the face came into the light, my stomach dropped. It was my daughter. Her hair was tied back, her clothes plain, no makeup. She looked older than her years, weighed down by something heavier than time. And in her hands, a black binder. Thick. Stuffed with pages. Dad, she said softly, like it hurt. I stayed still. My voice came out flat. You set me up. Tears welled in her eyes, but she didn't move closer. It wasn't supposed to be like this. They told me if I got you out of the way, we'd be safe. Me, the kids. My fists clenched. So you left me in Grayford to die. Her voice cracked. I thought they meant you'd disappear. Not this. She held up the binder. This is what they want. What they've been looking for. It's from your past, not mine. I stared at it, blood roaring in my ears. And what's in it? She hesitated, then whispered. Everything. Missions. Names. Places. The people you left behind. The debts they say you never paid. The word again. Debts. I took a step closer, voice low and dangerous. And you thought you could buy your family's safety with it? She broke. Tears running now, shaking her head. I didn't know who else to turn to. They said if I didn't deliver it, they'd come for the kids. Please, Dad. Please take it. You're the only one who can stop them. She held out the binder, arms trembling. And before I could reach for it, a gunshot cracked through the night. The binder flew from her hands, pages scattering into the creek like dying birds. She screamed. I spun toward the tree lean, rage hotter than fire. We weren't alone. The shot still echoed across the water when that voice rolled out from the trees. Low. Gravelly. Full of hate aged like whiskey. Still running, ghost? Or are you finally ready to pay what you owe? My blood went cold. I knew that voice. Elias Kane. We served together once, briefly, violently. He was the kind of man who enjoyed the job too much, even in a line of work that demanded you bury your conscience. Back then, command buried him after an op went south. He wasn't supposed to have made it out alive. But here he was. He stepped into the moonlight, scar carving down one side of his face like a canyon. Eyes wild, smile sharp. Rifle slung lazy over his shoulder, like he didn't need it to kill me. You left me in that pit, ghost, he snarled. Buried under rubble. They wrote me off. You walked away. I stood between him and my daughter, body tense. You were supposed to be dead. Supposed to be, he laughed bitterly. But I crawled out. Piece by piece. Every day since, I've been paying the bill you stuck me with. And now, he gestured toward the ruined binder pages drifting in the water, it's your family's turn to pay. My daughter whimpered behind me, clutching at my sleeve. For once, she wasn't the betrayer, she was just another pawn Kane had decided to use. I raised my hands slowly, not in surrender, but in calculation. My mind ran the angles. Distance. Terrain. His stance. Kane, I said evenly, 40 years is a long time to carry a grudge. He smirked, teeth catching the moonlight. Not long enough. You took my future, Ghost. Now I'll take yours. He leveled the rifle. And then a second shot cracked, not from Cain. From the ridge behind him. Cain stumbled, cursing, as the rifle flew from his hands. Sam's voice carried across the water, strong and certain. Thought you said not to bring me, Frank. Good thing I don't listen. Sam's shot had saved my skin, but chaos doesn't save anyone for long. Cain rolled into the brush, cursing, and the night lit up with gunfire from his sidearm. Bullets sparked against stone, hissed past my ear. I dragged my daughter down behind a fallen log. She clutched at me, wide-eyed, but my focus was elsewhere. The binder pages, the whole damn reason for this circus, were floating away, some torn, some sinking into the creek. Only, not all of them. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw movement. Not Cain. Not Sam. Someone else. A figure in dark clothes, crouched low, scooping up pages with methodical precision. The third hand in the game. Dad, my daughter whispered, following my gaze. Who is that? I didn't answer. Because the truth was worse than her question. The way the figure moved, quick and clean, wasn't some random scavenger. It was muscle memory. Training. Whoever they weren't here to kill. They were here to collect. Sam shouted from the ridge, Frank. He's circling left. Gunfire cracked again. Cain was still alive, still dangerous. But my eyes stayed on the shadow figure, sliding back into the trees with an armful of my past. I stood, ignoring my daughter's grip on my sleeve. My knees howled, but I pushed forward, feet splashing into the creek. For 1 second the figure froze, pages clutched to their chest, and turned toward me. The hood slipped just enough in the moonlight. A face I hadn't seen in nearly 50 years. Younger, sharper, but the bloodline was there. My grandson. The water burned cold around my shins, but nothing froze me like the look on his face. My grandson. My own flesh, standing there with the pages pressed to his chest like they belonged to him. He didn't look scared. Didn't look confused. He looked in control. Daniel, I said, voice rough. What the hell are you doing out here? He tilted his head, a ghost of a smirk tugging at his lips. Finishing what you started, Grandpa. Another shot cracked from the ridge. Sam kept Cain pinned, but the bastard was still firing back, shouting curses that echoed through the hollow. My daughter clutched my arm, whispering, No, no, this can't, Daniel, it's me. It's Mom. Daniel didn't even glance at her. His eyes stayed locked on me. Cold. Calculated. You think you can bury everything you did, he said. But debts don't vanish. They get passed down. And now it's on me to collect what you owed. The words hit harder than Cain's bullets. This wasn't just manipulation. He believed it. Someone had fed him a story, painted me as the villain, and he'd swallowed it whole. Behind me, Sam's voice roared, Frank, I can't hold him forever. Gunfire cracked, wood splintered, the whole night a storm. And there I was, knee-deep in water, caught between two betrayals, Cain's vengeance, and my grandson's judgment. Daniel stepped back into the trees, binder pages in his arms. You've got 1 night left, Ghost. After that, the whole world sees who you really are. Then he was gone. Vanished into the dark like smoke. Cain's laughter carried over the gunfire, ragged and furious. Even your own blood knows the truth, Ghost. You can't outrun it anymore. Sam's shot cut him off, silencing the night for just a heartbeat. I stood in the creek, fists trembling, heart pounding like war drums. My grandson. My own grandson. This wasn't just revenge anymore. This was war inside my own bloodline. Cain's blood soaked into the dirt as Sam hauled him into the open. He looked broken, but not beaten. Men like him always cling to hate like it's oxygen. I knelt in front of him, my daughter hovering behind me, trembling. You turned my grandson against me. You fed him lies. Cain spat blood and laughed, a dry, choking sound. Don't flatter yourself, Ghost. I didn't have to tell him a damn thing. He's not mine. He's theirs. I grabbed a fistful of his torn jacket. Theirs who? His smile split wide, grotesque in the moonlight. The ones who built us. The ones who erased us when we stopped being useful. You think your government buried you and walked away? No, ghost. They sold your ghost stories to the highest bidder. Sam's jaw tightened. Agency work. Black files. The old dogs who cashed out. Kane nodded, blood bubbling at his lip. And now your grandson's their prize. Clean slate, young blood, trained with your sins as his compass. They don't need you anymore. They've got him. The words cut deep, but I couldn't show it. My daughter collapsed to her knees, sobbing. Daniel, no, he wouldn't. But he would. I'd seen it in his eyes. The same fire I once carried, twisted into something colder. I leaned closer to Kane, my voice low, dangerous. Where are they taking him? He coughed, laughed again. Hollow Creek was just the invitation. The real game's at the estate. Out past Grayford. You know the one. Big iron gates, old money. That's where the binder will be sewn back together. And when it is, the whole world will know exactly who Ghost was. I let go of his jacket, stood. My knees ached, but my rage drowned it out. If they wanted the ghost, they were about to get him. Sam looked at me. What's the play? I didn't hesitate. We burn the estate. We take back the boy. And we end this. Kane coughed up another laugh, even as Sam pressed the barrel of his pistol to his head. You're too old, Ghost. Too slow. You won't make it past the gate. I stared down at him, eyes hard as steel. Then I'll make sure my grandson sees exactly what an old ghost can do. The drive out to Hollow Creek was long enough for doubts to creep in, but I shoved them down. I didn't tell Sam. Didn't bring him. The note had been clear, and I needed answers more than I needed backup. The creek lay in a hollow of black pines, moonlight turning the water into broken glass. The kind of place kids tell ghost stories about. Fitting. I waited. Midnight came and went. The silence pressed down heavy, broken only by the hiss of insects and the ripple of the water. Then I saw movement. From the tree lean, a figure stepped out. Slow. Deliberate. Carrying something under their arm. I squinted against the dark. And when the face came into the light, my stomach dropped. It was my daughter. Her hair was tied back, her clothes plain, no makeup. She looked older than her years, weighed down by something heavier than time. And in her hands, a black binder. Thick. Stuffed with pages. Dad, she said softly, like it hurt. I stayed still. My voice came out flat. You set me up. Tears welled in her eyes, but she didn't move closer. It wasn't supposed to be like this. They told me if I got you out of the way, we'd be safe. Me, the kids. My fists clenched. So you left me in Grayford to die. Her voice cracked. I thought they meant you'd disappear. Not this. She held up the binder. This is what they want. What they've been looking for. It's from your past, not mine. I stared at it, blood roaring in my ears. And what's in it? She hesitated, then whispered. Everything. Missions. Names. Places. The people you left behind. The debts they say you never paid. The word again. Debts. I took a step closer, voice low and dangerous. And you thought you could buy your family's safety with it? She broke. Tears running now, shaking her head. I didn't know who else to turn to. They said if I didn't deliver it, they'd come for the kids. Please, Dad. Please take it. You're the only one who can stop them. She held out the binder, arms trembling. And before I could reach for it, a gunshot cracked through the night. The binder flew from her hands, pages scattering into the creek like dying birds. She screamed. I spun toward the tree lean, rage hotter than fire. We weren't alone. I got my hands around Sam's throat. His eyes bulged, still calculating. "You're too old," he rasped. I leaned close, teeth bared. "Old enough to bury you." And I did. When the smoke cleared, Daniel stood trembling, binder clutched to his chest. His mother rushed in behind me, tears streaking her face. She reached for him. He looked at me instead. For the first time, not with hate. Not with fire. But with something colder, sharper, realization. "You really were the ghost," he whispered. I didn't answer. Just took the binder from his shaking hands, tore it down the spine, and let the pages scatter into the flames. The past doesn't deserve to live forever. The estate burned behind us as we walked into the night. My daughter clung to her boy, weeping relief. And me? I felt nothing. Because ghosts don't get happy endings. We just get to choose who haunts the dark when we're gone. A week later, another letter slid under my door. Same block handwriting. Same 3 words. But this time, it said, "She's still alive."